Welcome everyone to the Community and Recreation Committee meeting. I'll just start off with a prayer. Thank you. Almighty God, we give thanks for blessings which have been bestowed upon New Zealand. Laying aside all personal interests, we pray for guidance in our deliberations, that we may conduct the affairs of this committee meeting with wisdom and humility. For the public welfare and peace of our Nelson community, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Welcome everyone. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We've got, as you see, a few via Zoom, and we've got our youth councillors, Isla Kennard and Kiera Push-Scriven. Is that right? Very good. And just a comment, as you well know, just an electioneering reminder. As we move further into this election period, I would like to remind all members that these meetings are for transactional council business only, and no electioneering may take place on behalf of yourself or any candidate. Thank you. I'll move on to apologies. I've got an apology from Tom Alisana, Councillor Niall Stevenson, Councillor Fulton, and then I've got lateness for just checking on it, Councillor Noonan, Councillor Edgar. That's it. Thank you. Can I have someone move that? Moved by Councillor Courtney. Can I have someone second it? Councillor Brand. I'll put it. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you for that. Confirmation of order of business is, as you've got tabled here today. There'll be a chair report, a verbal report. I thought it would be for neatness, put that in regards to just before the quarterly report, because I think it ties quite well with the staff's report on the 6 months gone by, or 4 months gone by. I'll move into the next, or actually first up, any interests? No, all very good. I welcome for public forum, I've got Peter Watson. Welcome to the table from the golf club, Waitaka Road Golf Club. Peter. And just I think you will have, and I have got the speaking notes for Peter that you kindly presented for us, and I believe you've got something to put up on the slideshow as well. Is that right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you, Tim, for the invitation and allowing me to speak at the public forum. I'm the club manager at the golf club, and I'm here to just give you a summary of what's happened up there. We're told that we've suffered the worst damage of any sporting facility in the city. A third of the holes have been damaged. There's a huge amount of debris over the course. Some of the golf signs have been found at Rabbit Island. That was the power of the water, the flood water. The main bridge has been washed away, the footbridge buckled, and the only access we have at the moment is a concrete ford passable only at low river level. We've got no water supply at the moment or irrigation system. There's bad scouring of the river bed, and we've lost the new bike walk track around the golf course, and there's major damage to the new pump track. So I'll just go through some photos. That's the one that up there at the moment is the remains of the main bridge. That's what we face on some of the fairways, getting rid of that. That's one of the abutments of the bridge that was washed away. That's the scouring of the river bed. In places it's now a third to a half wider than it was previously, and the riverbed is clogged with shingle. That's another view of the damage. That's again the amount of silt that lies being washed onto the fairways that we have to remove, and it's up to a couple of metres deep in places. And that's the footbridge that is red stickered at the moment because we can't use it, obviously, because it's been washed out and twisted. It's another view of it. And that's some of the debris that is scattered all over the golf course. Tree stumps, forestry slash, whole logs. It's another one. Right, so that's just a taste of what it's been like. The cleanup has been underway for a number of weeks now. It's been undertaken by Wynnum Contracting, the Greenkeeper, and our club volunteers, along with other volunteers from other clubs. We haven't had much assistance yet from Nelmac, who ironically have the contract to maintain the course. But I'm sure it'll arrive in due course. We've had daily working bees. Club members walked into the course 2 days after the floods and saved the greens from major damage, therefore probably saving the council tens of thousands of dollars. We have so far got one of 3 damaged holes back being able to be played again. Another will possibly be ready within a week, but the third will take at least a month to fix. Thanks to the generosity of Nelson Golf Club greenkeepers and their volunteers, we managed to fix returf one of the badly damaged greens yesterday, and the bunkers have been cleaned out and refilled with sand. So what the floods have meant for us is that the golf course has been closed since August the 17th. That's a month. So neither the council or the golf club has been earning any income since that time off the course. There has also been, due to the damage done to the hub facilities, there's been no visitors up or family groups up using the pump track or those facilities. They were becoming increasingly popular, and we expect them to be well used over the spring and summer. So what we urgently need is a safe and reliable way of getting those involved in the cleanup and golfers back and forth across the river. So either the footbridge repaired, if it's possible, a temporary bridge, or some form of transport where we can take multiple people and their gear across. We also need repairs to the water and irrigation system, because for those who know about golf courses, greens must have water to the greens, and particularly with the weather warming up, you need irrigation. And we need the riverbed deepening and strengthening, particularly the riverbanks that have been scoured out, and to do that to minimise the risk of further flooding. Why this is important? Well, your golf course is a well-used community asset. 20,000 rounds played on it last year, up 20% on the previous year. It's been used for a growing number of events, such as the mountain bike races. We were to have the Coppermine race up there before this happened. Run and walk events, we've got a major one coming up in March. Golf tournaments, the Tasman Schools cross country is held there, and the clubhouse is used for a growing range of functions and seminars. Club membership is a 15-year high. That's how popular the place has been. And your golf course earns the council $188,000 in income a year. And that has been growing strongly and was expected to do so even more with the opening of the recreational hub. And the golf course returns the City Council 50% of what it is spent on it, compared to about 10 to 20% of what other sporting facilities do, grounds do. And the council and the government has just spent $1 million creating the hub at the golf course with the aim of making the Maito Valley a major recreational area. So, in summary, while we are the first to say that private property and vital infrastructure must come first in the flood cleanup. People also need recreational opportunities for their physical and mental health, and the golf place is a really good place to do that. And we've been closed for a month, and it's really important that every endeavour is made to so we can reopen in time for the busy spring and summer season. And from the council, that requires early commitment, some swift decision making, and sufficient resources for us to do that. Our club members have gone beyond the call of duty and volunteering their help, but we, along with their contractor, but we'll run out of energy soon, so we need council's help to get us open as soon as possible. If not, we risk undoing all the hard work done over the recent years to turn the facility into a really lovely and popular place. Thank you.
Cheers, Peter. That's very disheartening what's happened there, but also very heartening and what you've done. And I know you put a call out to people to come and help at the early stage. Just really shows the force of nature, which you just never expect. Mayor.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Peter, I just want to really acknowledge how hard it is when you look at all your work just washed away, crushed by an event. It's really hard work to step straight up and get in there and clean it up, which your members did. And I just want to thank them very much for doing that work, because you're right, it made a big difference. In terms of, but keeping on doing that can be very, very difficult. So have you registered for with the recovery team to get the student volunteer army or the other sort of 400 people that Bill Huffler's got on his list? You're in contact with them? Yes,
we have registered with them, and I think Bill was to send out a request for Sunday.
Sunday, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Okay, yeah. Well, that's good, because there's certainly plenty of people that are still out there wanting to come in and help to do that work. And I can assure you that some of those projects you've got up there are being looked at right now by the recovery team. So they're having some thinking, particularly about the bridge. And I know Mr. White has gone through and done a very comprehensive assessment of priorities for what the damage looks like. It's a really eye-watering number when we start to look at it across the system. But I can assure you that Lai Takaro is within that consideration mix what needs to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Peter. That's you made very clear. And you've got any more sort of not public, but you got any more calls to help for hands on deck outside of your busy crew?
Well, we've got the daily working bees, but we've also got the big public clean-up on this Sunday.
Good.
So we hopefully get quite a few people along there.
What time is that?
It's from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Yeah.
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. So that's all we have for public forums. I'll move straight on to the confirmation of minutes. So I've just got confirmation minutes on pages 9 to 15. If I can have someone move that as a true and correct record. Moved by Councillor McGurk. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Courtney. Thank you. I put it. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you. I'll move to the councillors or youth councillor update. I've got Isla and Kiara.
Kia ora, through the chair. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to give an update on what Youth Council has been working on. Currently, we're undergoing a Youth Council review process. It's been 10 years since the running of Youth Council has been looked at and updated. So a few weeks ago, a few of us youth councillors attended a workshop. It was a very productive discussion about what's working well in our process, what can be changed or updated or improved for future years, and how can we make the running of the Youth Council more efficient, including attending the council meetings and our own youth council meetings and what we get involved in within the community. So that's still an ongoing process, but hopefully for the next couple youth council years, things should be improving and it should be a more productive group.
Kia ora. So we've also been helping with some events around the Nelson Tasman area, for example, the Art Festival, which is being held on the 20th of October. So youth councillors have been helping to organise the event, and we will also be having a youth stage. So we've been helping, to run the event, I guess. And also the Youth Action Conference, which is a climate action youth conference to tackle climate change issues, and we've been helping with that. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Any questions from the table? Thank you. So how's it been with COVID? I know we haven't had any meetings in the chamber for a little while, and we're back to it.
Yeah,
now,
we've had them online, and we haven't had any in here. So hopefully this next meeting we will have one in here.
Very good.
Yeah.
And your meetings, how do they continue beyond this particular triennial finish? And this term finishes in mid-October. Do you as a youth council continue to overlap from that, or does it change over further on in the term?
Sorry, what do you mean by that?
So you guys are members of a youth council at the moment. When does that
Yes.
change over? I know we as councillors change over.
We run the whole year, so I think our final meeting is end of October, and then we start our recruitment process for next year
Oh, very
with
good.
induction coming up. But we're still youth council members until the second induction in late January, where we pass over to the new youth councillors.
Very good. I think I like that staggered a little bit for a bit of continuity. Madam Mayor.
So you have an idea, we've got a paper coming up to the council. We have to deal with the interregnum period. That's a period between when this council finishes and the next council gets sworn in. Maybe we should hand the delegation to the youth council. What do
Well,
you
just
think?
come across my mind. They could be the stand-in
What do you think?
while we during that lull.
I've seen the youth council be very effective and efficient at their decision making. So I think it could be quite a good move. I'll have a think about that for the council meeting. Thank you both very much for your commitment to our city. Our youth council is so highly valued for all that you do, and I know the last couple of years have been really difficult. It's hard to maintain like that sort of cohesion when you're working on online all the time and you can't actually be together in a room doing your mahi. But thank you so much for everything you've done, and hopefully we'll see you back again.
Thank you for that. Very good. So we move on to our first agenda item, which is the Nelson Festivals Trust end of year report. So welcome. We've got Lydia, Ali, and Sarah.
Just also to speak to that there were some additional papers that were circulated.
So thank you for that, Tanya. So just to draw your attention, you'll have in front of you the end of year financial or performance report. Everyone's got that. Very good. And just to let you know, those are on Zoom. That will be emailed to you very shortly. Thank you. Welcome. So we've got pages 16 to 44.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask a question, please?
Just before, you're okay? It's a clarification.
Your clarification, you seem to be on different numbering on pages than what I've got on my agenda. Did I miss something?
I've got pages 14. I see it's down on what I've just mentioned, 16, but if you go pages 14,
Oh, right.
14 to 42, 41.
No, that's what I've got. Sorry, I thought you said 16.
I did say 16. It's on my run sheet here. But thank you.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Cheers.
Kia ora tata. Thank you very much for welcoming us here today. And I'd like to introduce Lydia Zanetti, who you may already hopefully know. Sorry, I don't know if that's me beeping or somebody else is beeping. No? Oh. Sorry? Okay. Sorry, I thought I was doing something strange with the comms. So sorry about that. It's like, I know it was a whole new noise. But Lydia is the Kaihotu artistic director for the Arts Festival. Also with me is my fellow trustee, Sarah Yarrow, who I'm sure is familiar to all of you, and apologies from Brent, our chairman, who can't be here today. So yeah, thank you very much for giving us the time. I know you're coming to the end of probably some very busy meetings as you lead up to the end of this this term of council. So it's great to have this opportunity. I'll pass over to Lydia, who's going to go through a presentation with you, and then obviously we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Kia ora koutou, ko Lydia Zanetti, toku ingoa. Yes, I'm the executive and artistic director of the Nelson Arts Festival. You're used to seeing me on screen. It's very nice to be here in person to join you today. Next slide, please. So I'm here to table.
So you've got it.
Oh, I've got it. Oh, exciting. Oh, very good. Thank you. I'm here to table our end of year report for July 21 to June 22. However, as I've spoken to this time in quite a lot of detail in our last two presentations, I will also take this opportunity to focus on the time since we last presented in April and looking forward. I want to ground our conversation here today with our vision. Kia tū he hui a huri e haumako au ngā tangata huri I te rohe. So a festival of unmissable arts that enriches the people of our region. This is our whāngai whānui, our vision and reason for being. We unpack this vision through our kaupapa of manaakitanga. We connect with audiences, artists, staff and volunteers with mutual respect and care. We uplift and inspire, listen and hold space for one another. Inclusivity, opportunities for our culturally and socially diverse community to not only engage but feel seen throughout the festival. Quality, bringing folks together to be surprised, overjoyed, taken aback and moved, making space for robust discussion before, within and after these experiences. Partnership, working towards relationships for life, and not just this year. Through listening, we will take on a leadership role within the arts sector of Whakatū, sharing our resources, knowledge and connections and empowering others through our collective strength. And Manatoi, connecting our community directly to artists through intimate artistic experiences. We will and are reach out to tangata whenua and towards a new space which is about listening, reflecting and sharing. And within each year, we have a guiding statement and core question, which in 2022 is a discussion on our relationship to certainty, apt given the year that it has been. It's important to sit with all of these intentions at these moments of reflection, to remind ourselves the why of our existence, a wonderful festival for our whole community, the values we hold close, caring for people, our whole community feeling seen, exceptional artistic experiences, collaborations, and the power of the arts, and the questions we want to unpack. Since we last spoke in April, we've been putting our dreaming into practice. This included program visioning and confirming, contracting, funding applications, partnerships old and new, marketing materials collated, brochure designed and sent to print, recruitment of smaller contracted roles, booking travel and accommodation, marketing and publicity planning, and so much more. Like all organisations, this has been impacted by COVID-19 through illness in the team. Artists, impacted schedules, less shows to see for programming, more artists heading back offshore and so on. This feels particularly steep in a small team and a sector based on gathering groups of people together. We've expanded our delivery team with short-term roles who, despite their limited scope, have huge expertise which enriches the organisation, encouraging robust conversation and helps us put a strong foot forward towards the 2022 festival. Of particular note is the new Access Coordinator role, who is rolling out an audio-described performance and exhibition, as well as New Zealand Sign Language interpreted events. This is an exciting step forward for the festival. We've been working hard to renew standing and engage new partners in the community, commercial, charitable, council and individual spaces. This includes applying to Creative New Zealand for the annual arts grant again for 23. We're deepening our collaborations locally and nationally with a number of key events in the festival being created alongside core Whakatū Nelson community organisations. We've signed an extension of our contract with Nelson City Council through until the end of the calendar year 2022 and are working with staff towards locking in a new contract for our ongoing relationship with Nelson City Council before that end date at the end of the year. So our key focuses for the Trust in 22 remain diversity and accessibility, Te Tiriti Waitangi partnership and our partners development. We approached the COVID-19 risk management with practical positivity in 22 and we continue to do so. We believe it is necessary to create moments for the whakatū community to come together and we believe that we can do this in a safe way which respects many different needs. The festival's program structure for 22 takes this into account with a range of high quality arts experiences for our community to participate in and experience. The focus is shifted towards more low risk events, which incorporate one or more of the following: outdoors, low audience numbers, bespoke, well ventilated, installational, durational, so one can come back later if it's too busy, and not triggering for tamariki and others who may be prone to agoraphobia. We are encouraging audience members to wear masks with main communications focused around protecting artists. We have and continue to collaborate with partners across the motu about this planning and risk assessment, consistently updating our industry best practice. All of this mahi culminated in the Nelson Arts Festival program launch, which we're super excited to host a number of councillors and staff with wonderful words from Mayor Rees and Matua Luke, as well as performances, speeches, a drumming circle, and wonderful kai. Thank you all so much for your support of this important moment in the festival. Since launching, we've been overwhelmed by the incredible response from our community, peers nationally and internationally, and artists, with another festival director commenting that there's so many layers in the programming and how accessible it is, truly stunning. We hear that we've made something world-class for whakatū. Not only has the program been so well received, but our new initiative of Pay What You Can is walking the talk and creating a festival that everyone in our community can engage with 5 different price brackets available for each ticketed event. People who have never been able to afford to engage with the festival can join us, while others can pay more than recommended to support this increased access. This is a national first for a regional arts festival in Aotearoa, and we feel privileged to be able to lead the way. We're also really proud of how the Nelson Arts Festival program came together with an intention to celebrate all parts of our community to create as much accessibility as possible, including acknowledging the risks and concerns of important parts of our community in regard to COVID-19. COVID-19 has fundamentally changed many aspects of our lives and by necessity our program. This year, we're not holding events which bring together large crowds focused on one experience over a short period of time, which means there is no mask carnival as part of this festival. It's a multi-generational event and the younger and older members of our community are particularly vulnerable. We're also very aware of the huge pressure schools are under, including short staffing. It's important to note that this decision was made in the early part of the year when we were battling our first Omicron wave with no crystal ball to see into the future. It was a really hard decision for the board and team and it was not taken lightly. We know the carnival is much loved, so we have split elements of it across the program. These include the incredible legacy of mask making in whakatū, events of scale for the whole community to engage with, and community-led making. Masks About Town, which celebrates the creativity and history of mask culture and making in our community, is open to all to contribute with an installation that stretches across the CBD in collaborations with Community Artworks, Nelson Youth Council, Uniquely Nelson and others. A big event for the whole community in Night Vision, where all of our galleries come alive on opening night of the festival with a new work from Chloe Loftus, installations, music events celebrating our rangatahi bands with Nelson Youth Council, writers' talks and more. This is spread across multiple locations over 4 hours to enable safe engagement. And another big event for the whole community is the international premiere of Thor, an 8-hour installation of dancers on a giant piece of ice hanging over Port Nelson, a landmark event for whakatū and a huge statement to our commitment to climate action in the region. As audiences come and go, they can maintain as much distance as required for their needs. Since our strategy was born, community-led making has been a core part of Nelson Arts Festival beyond our Mask Carnival event. This has been expanded and embedded across the whole festival in 22 with events made by our community, including by Whakatū, a new paid residency program for local artists, Victory Poetry Slam, hosted at Victory Boxing Gym, poets on the stage, connecting up incoming local rangatahi poets with two of our country's best for a night of scintillating alliteration, a chance to make the ultimate commitment to yourself and self-love wedding ceremony at Fairfield House, top-notch classical NCMA, new exhibition at Cultural Conversations, collaborations with NMIT students for Whispers on Our Streets, a second location for Viewfinder, and many more. In fact, 39% of our program is led by the community in 2022. We have so many exciting events, and I wish I had time to go into them all now, but instead I'll note a couple of stats we're really celebrating this year. 25% of our program is led by Māori, 43% by people of colour, and 62% by wahine. And of course, 100% of our program is either free or pay what you can, with tickets starting from just $9 or $15 for larger events. This means we can gift the festival to not just one part, but all of our community, unlike any other festival has been able to do in this country before. We believe that this is something to be celebrated not just by us, but by the council and the community. He toi whakaaro, he mana tangata. This whakatoki expresses one of our core beliefs, that the making of art enriches the well-being of us all. With this in mind, we're committed to make a festival which across 56 events in 37 locations over 11 days is truly enriching the well-being of all of Whakatū Nelson. We're looking forward, and it's rushing up on us to the 20th to 30th of October, when finally our team will get to deliver a full festival. It's been a long time coming. We're continuing to manage a number of huge challenges, including COVID-19 planning, which is still impacting us, even if the rules have changed, as well as flood damage. With just 5 weeks to go, we're deep in logistics, planning ways to celebrate our partnerships and community and how to welcome our artists to the region, as well as looking further ahead to post-festival surveying, programming and funding applications for 2023. The ball never stops rolling with annual festivals. Just before we move to questions, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge our partners who are helping make this festival happen. Thank you so much. And thank you to the councillors and chair, and would welcome any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. Anything you want to add to that, Ellie?
I really just want to add from a board's perspective how proud we are of the festival this year, because it has been an enormous amount of work for the team. And I think, you know, Lydia says that all very easily. There's an enormous amount of work that goes on behind the scenes, and particularly in terms of engaging those partners that we know that we need to get back on board in order to continue to make this festival ongoing and viable. From a board perspective, I think it's really important that we acknowledge the work that's been done, and to thank the council obviously for their ongoing support, because clearly as the core partner in the festival, you're absolutely vital to its ability to do that. But as I say, from a board perspective, we feel very proud every time we come together that this team is actually working to develop a festival that we think really befits the legacy of what the Nelson Arts Festival is. So thank you.
Thank you for that. I've got Trudy, then Brian and then Mel.
Sure, thanks through the chair. Well, that looked awesome and fantastic and quite exciting. Awesome job there. I've got a couple of simple questions just on one, so sorry if it's like nailing into one pinpoint when there's that fantastic opportunity coming for our community to engage. You said that you made the decision early on about not to run the mass carnival in its state as we're in the first wave of Omicron. So when did you actually have that conversation with Nelson City Council that you weren't going to do that?
Sure. We have noted to the council a number of points. There was a conversation with our elected liaison in March as we were in the midst of figuring out how that would work. And then we also talked to the acting mayor in the middle of the year.
So you spelt out that the decision was made not to run it, or is it just how we were going to work with it?
We talked about that we were looking at it, and at that stage we didn't receive any feedback about how we needed to flag that to the council.
Okay, so when did it come to the council's attention that you were not going to run the parade, the carnival?
We talked to the acting mayor. Let me just double check what date that was. This has also been all provided to the staff. Yeah. Excuse me. In June, we talked to the acting mayor, and at that stage, it was we were told that we needed to communicate it directly to the councillors before we launched, which did occur.
Okay, thank you. And then through the chair, with this, the high involvement from the schools, you mentioned that the schools being quite under pressure as well. When did you have the conversation with them that you weren't going to have them involved in the Mask Carnival?
We've been reaching out to the schools to communicate around all of the program. So Mask Carnival, well, we communicated about Masks About Town. I guess it's quite important for me to note that we're communicating about a whole festival, and Mask Carnival is obviously a really important part of that and the history of this festival. But we are communicating about a multitude of different things to those groups.
No, I appreciate that. It's just the Mask Carnival is a equal leveler for anybody in the community to attend. So it's quite well grounded and rooted in the community and a very stable one. So my next question through the chair is this seen as a transition for the Arts Festival to move away from running the Mask Festival in its current form? And this is the transition stage to do something different?
I'm happy to answer if you like. No. Essentially, if you can appreciate sitting on the board, we had to make a very difficult decision, and it's not something that we did lightly at all. We know very well the place that holds for the community of Nelson. So no, this is just something we needed to do for this year and find a way around it. We certainly haven't said we will never hold a mask parade and carnival. We know the importance of it. And I would really just like to support what Lydia has said. You know, we've been talking about this all year and communicating as much as we felt we had to at the time. And I think that we just need to understand, I guess, understanding your concern is one thing, but then we need to understand going forward how best to communicate those things through to council. So we've got clarity on that.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you for that. I've got Brian and Mel, and just acknowledge I see I've got Sansa and Edgar on Zoom there. So Brian.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, thanks. Really enjoyed that presentation, and I have to sort of commend the board and the organisers for what looks like a really unique, refreshing carnival for arts festival for Nelson Whakatū. So I commend you for that, and I suppose you've had, sort of a bit of speechifying, I suppose, at the moment, but, we've had almost every plague that's been thrown at us, and you've still managed to deliver something that I think we can be excited for. So the question I have is, you've had the opportunity to sort of reconfigure the festival. Is that providing a sort of a springboard for the future? I'm just thinking about the sustainability of, attracting good performers and artists to the festival now and into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question. We have had incredible feedback from the whole industry throughout the country and internationally, as well as obviously locally, that this is a really exciting program, that the direction the festival is going in is really high quality with really exceptional experiences, and that artists really want to be involved and be here. And I think that we're creating a vision for the future that is a festival that artists will be really keen to come to, that the industry will travel into town for, and that will attract out of town visitors.
Yeah, okay. No, I appreciate that, because I sort of the view was, I suppose, was the festival was sort of a cookie cutter. It was just the artists would go around track. We're just looking for something that's unique and special to Nelson Whakatū, that if you don't go to anything else, go to this one.
Yeah, I think there has been times when it's felt like some of the festivals around the country have had very similar programming, and I don't believe that this is what has occurred under the current leadership. Yeah.
The other one I want to talk about is just attracting the audiences back into the festival. You talked at some length about the safe ways. Do you see that as a risk or, well, an obstacle or a barrier or something, like just, getting the audiences back?
Yeah, well, and this is the important thing about staying in close contact with other festivals around the country. Certainly arts venues and festivals are having a harder time with attracting audiences back in advance, but then closer to the event, people are tending to book more, and I believe that's been seen locally as well. So there it is more nerve-wracking on this end, but we believe that if there's an event that is really appealing to an audience, that the people will come.
And just to add to that, if I may, through you, I think that the pay what you can as well is an attempt, or our objective is to get more people involved as well that ordinarily might not see it. So and the spread across the community, which has been a really different step change for this festival.
Which is also about building audiences for the future for all of the arts community in Whakatū.
Yeah, when do you think you know if it works, how it will work?
November.
We'll have to report afterwards. I mean, we'll only know when we know, to be fair, because we have to actually see how this all plays out. But we are getting really strong interest, as Lydia said. And as we get closer, we know that people suddenly, it comes into their sights. And off the back of a flood where people are quite distracted, it's difficult again. So we've had this other thing thrown at us. But I think that once people see the energy and feel the energy, and that's the whole purpose of this, it's around that community engagement and bring people back together. So once you start to feel that, it's difficult then to ignore it.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Mel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you so much, Lydia and Ali and Sarah too, for coming today and presenting this excellent report. It's quite amazing, I think, how you've held the organisation, your organisation together through these difficult times. Quite outstanding, really. And I've got to just check my figures here because I wrote down 56 events over 37 days. Am I right?
11 days. Thankfully, not 37. Yeah.
That's amazing too. My question is around partners. So you've hit the ground running and you're talking to partners. What's the response been like in that area?
Yeah, we've built it's been really exciting this year with our partnerships actually, and that has expanded on last year. So we have seen growth in that space, and particularly partnerships that feel like they have real depth and meaning to them. I'd note particularly the Cawthron and the port and the airport, where it's both a sort of artistic partnership as well as in other ways. So that's been a real area of growth and excitement for us.
That's excellent. You mentioned here in your report, and I've got to ask you, what are the circumstances that prompt you to put this in here? But it's rather nice because compliments are not that freely given today, I don't think. They're pretty guarded. And you say here, we're working with the wonderful Nelson City Council staff. Now, what prompted you to say that?
What prompted me to say that was that I've had a really positive experience working with our elected liaison with Tanya Robinson this year, and I wanted to acknowledge that.
Good. Thank you for that. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that. I've got Judy and Edgar, and then April Sanson.
Kia ora. Look, firstly, and I'm sorry I need to do this, but I do need to correct some information that was supplied earlier. So the contract with the Festivals Trust is an operational contract. The mayor is not the contact person, and so as acting mayor at that time, I was neither sought permission from or gave permission. It was an update and I was told that the masked carnival was not happening. So I am not the contact person. So hence the advice I gave was a governance level, which was about informing elected members. So the Festivals Trust have a contact person within their contract and it is not an elected member. So yeah, I wanted to correct that. So now I'll just go on to my question. So this morning, we were supplied the annual accounts. So sorry if I haven't had a lot of time to look over those, but it was mentioned in your report, the surplus and your reserves policy. So I just need to clarify, because I note that you have returned grants to a number of grant bodies, and because you do, they're a liability until you deliver on them. So last year you weren't able to deliver elements, so therefore you would have returned them. I thought council had the same requirements, because I remember when we discussed in first COVID, funds were returned, I believed, or were scheduled to be returned when things were cancelled. So just what impact does that have on your surplus funds? Because I didn't see it listed as a current liability.
Well, we have, thanks for that, Judy, and thanks for the clarification. We have a reserves policy, as you referred to, and the board has also agreed to a 100k deficit in 2022, which is a really important commitment from the board to delivering a festival in a really complicated and compromised time.
Yes, so sorry, just further to that. So the board did make the decision that we would invest from our reserves into the festival this year of $100,000 in order to deliver the festival that we have. Is that not answering your question? Obviously, you're looking.
No. So sorry. As I said, I see accumulated reserves of 376,000, and council, and I see that you've returned some grants from previous years. So I don't see council's money listed as a current liability, or any returns to council from non-deliverability. And so like a grant, contract income is usually, classified as a liability. And I can't see how else you would have accumulated 376 in reserves if it isn't the income from council. So I'm not quite sure how that's a reserve and not a liability.
Right. Well, so we receive income from other sources as well. I'm getting your point now, Julie. Sorry, I was just being a bit slow there. But I think I guess in terms of is the question you're asking, because we're not delivering the mass parade, should we be giving council money back? Is that the question you're asking?
I think because these accounts span over, it's 2021. Yeah. They sort of span over a period. So I guess I'm looking a little bit at last year and a little bit at this year. So just probably a balance between the two.
For sure.
Because, I did look at your other income and go, I'm not quite sure how 376 could be accumulated in reserves and none of it be a liability based on council's contract. Yeah.
Right. I see. So there may be some. Yeah, okay. The 376 is over a longer period of time. That wasn't just a reserve that was accrued last year. If I'm hearing what you're saying correctly.
But what you're asking for is to have an identification of the council's funding as a liability for the Festival Trust moving forward. Is that what you're asking?
Well, I'm asking, I guess. Yeah. How are you accounting for council's money?
Right.
As a liability.
Sorry, I haven't got the accounts in front of me. I need to have a look and see.
Yeah, sorry, I only got them this morning as well. So I'm just,
Which is unfortunate because I think they were sent through with the
I
report.
think there was they accidentally didn't get attached and there was sort of a one pager and it missed some things. So I'm happy to give you a few minutes or someone else can ask questions while one of you have a look.
Thank you,
it's more about the accounting treatment, I guess I'm asking about.
Thank you.
So while Ellie's having a look at that, I've got Rachel Sanson. Do you have a question?
Thank you through the chair. Kia ora, Lydia and Ellie. There's been a lot of questions asked, so I just really want to acknowledge this awesome festival, particularly the focus on accessibility of all forms, diversity of all kinds, the transformation not just in being responsive to the challenges of COVID, but, you know, even in the programming, the emphasis on climate change and the, you know, the work or the piece Thor, which I'm super excited about, and just the innovation that you're really leading the way in festivals. So I'm just, yeah, super excited about it. And I just want to acknowledge your, you know, the brilliance really of the programming, the approach that you've taken, and, you know, still quite challenging times. So thanks to both of you and all of your team, and for the council staff who've supported you in this.
Thank you so much. It means a lot.
Thank you. I'll go back to Councillor Edgar, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Fine.
essentially, you're absolutely right, Judy. And we don't, Councillor Edgar, so we don't actually identify the council's investment in the festival separately within the liabilities and the accumulated funds. That is something that I guess, in terms of the way we deliver, we have a contract with council. We get funding to deliver the festival. We haven't actually separated that out in that way. That is something we can absolutely look at going forward if that's something that council would like to see.
I'll leave that over to the operational, whoever your contact person is, Mark or Tanya. But yeah, I just know from, you know, like a couple of years ago, you know, we had to get into that level of what's ours, what's yours, what's being delivered, what's not. And so probably from an accounting perspective, just the same with grants, it would probably be easier for everybody. Cheers.
Absolutely. And as I say, what I will say is that, you know, we believe we're being very prudent as well in having a reserves policy. It's something that as any organisation these days, we have to have that in place. So we certainly don't want to go so close to the bone that we know that we're putting our staff at risk.
Absolutely. And just also looking forward to the festival. Cheers.
Thank you, Judy. And I've got Councillor Noonan and the Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I'm just checking. Ali, did you have was there a mask parade last year?
I think I'm sad to say we haven't had a mask parade for 3 years now.
Okay, so did we give 100,000 for that one as well? I mean, I'm just looking now. We've got 2 that haven't happened, and we've funded. So
through you, I think we're in a sort of an interesting situation with the mask parade in that 2 years ago, when the first time we didn't hold it, there was a sort of I was going to say last minute attempt, but there was a possibility of resurrecting it. And at that time, we were asked to quantify what just putting on a mask parade in isolation would cost. And we came in, it was literally about $100,000. So I don't know that it actually would necessarily cost that now if you were doing it as part of a bigger festival. So I think that we've sort of got stuck with that number as something that it would cost. And we have an agreement to deliver a festival. One part of that festival has been the mask parade. Due to COVID, we haven't been able to deliver that. So, you know, if the mask parade is something that needs to be delivered separately in isolation, we probably need to talk about that as a part of a different conversation, I think, and that may well be something we want to do.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think I understand that if you don't deliver, then it does get offered back. But yeah, unfortunately, we've had a number of things. So in the future, I guess that will be reflected in the accounts.
Through you, I think from memory, and I am now just sort of trying to dredge back, we offered that back at the time because of what was happening with COVID, and we knew that we were definitely delivering at a lesser level. I don't know that that's necessarily something that we would want to always do, because we need to deliver a festival. As I say, the mask parade is part of that and has been traditionally part of that, but whether or not that's something now that we need to think about separating out and delivering separately to the festival, we, as I say, a conversation we're very open to having if that's what council wants to do.
Okay, yeah, I think that it's because that's the very community part, but it looks like you're sort of moving across to another model. So it'll be interesting to see with the Koha arrangement whether that actually brings in the public in general, which I think is what you're trying to achieve.
Yes, we're very hopeful that it will, but it will be good to see.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'm just going to go first and then the Madam Mayor. 2 parts to this, and I'll just go back to, obviously this report's been over for what's been achieved so far, and then obviously Lydia and Ali, you then touched on your presentation on going forward. Just covering that, there was a lot to go through, and I know you guys have been busy, and that booklet that's come out is great, and the visuals there. You talked about something about Tamariki agoraphobia. Lydia, what was that? You powered through. It was a lot of stuff you powered through. What was that in reference to?
So part of our conversations earlier on in the year were with particularly with one board member who works a lot with young children in the sports sector, and they were saying how there was a lot of concern noticing children finding big groups really stressful, being in indoor loud environments really stressful, because they just hadn't been exposed to it to the same amounts over the last couple of years.
Okay. And the other thing is going forward, you're talking about you've had the contract extended till December, is that right? And obviously for me, discovering that the mask parade wasn't happening, I know the public discovering a mask parade, I'm sure will be a huge disappointment and a surprise. As you're aware, the public feedback quite strong that mask parade is very important to them, and very important, especially with what we've been through over the last year or so forth, and a bit of stability coming up. The public is still disappointed and surprised that that's not going ahead. And Ellie, you said that was a decision of the board. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's as council, as a contractees, if that's a term for contract, was there a direction or inference from this council that there wasn't or shouldn't be a mask parade?
No, not at all. No, it was a board decision. I mean, we are an independent trust that are contracted to deliver the festival. So that was the decision that the board made at the time. We really couldn't put that on our team. Right at the beginning, one of the things Lydia talked about was certainty. One of the things we needed to do was give people certainty around this. So that's what we determined to do. So that absolutely was a decision made by the board, as is our role.
Okay. Madam Mayor, I'll hand over to Madam.
Thank you.
Question. Might follow up afterwards.
Kia ora, Lydia and Ellie. Look, just probably three things I just wanted to cover off, sort of partly questions, partly just sort of building on the questions that have come. I just having a look at the financial statements. I think your statements at pages 14 and 15 go through how revenue is recognised. So the revenue recognition section is there, and it looks quite logical to me. So that's certainly been considered by your accountants as to what how income is treated. So there's always that issue of whether you're receiving income in advance and whether it should be seen as a liability. But that's all set out in there. So I'm sure as it goes through the audit process, that'll be, if there's anything that's not where it needs to be, that'll be picked up. Just in terms of the tamariki agoraphobia, I just want to really acknowledge the thought that the trust has put into their decision, because this is very real, and it's very real in terms of the enormous stress that our kura, our schools are under, our wonderful teachers, that they've lived, and our students, they've lived 2 years of an incredibly difficult environment where many of our tamariki and rangatahi are now not engaged on a regular basis in school. It is probably the biggest social well-being, I'm not sure the word for it. It's not a catastrophe, but it's got the potential to be one if we don't, as communities, really engage in how are we going to reconnect our tamariki and rangatahi back into community, and as Lydia said, it's connecting back to sport. He's talking with Nigel Muir about this week. It's connecting back into education. It's connecting back into arts. And I think what the trust has come forward with is actually part of the glue that is going to bring back that confidence and build confidence. So the way you're delivering the program to me is just exceptionally thoughtful. And actually it's what we're going to need, probably over an extended period of time to just build back that cohesion and that connection and that inclusion. So I just want to acknowledge that. It's been really worrying me now for, a good 12 months. We're now starting to see the stats coming back about how many of our young people are just not connected into education. And that means they're not connected into all their co-curricular activities as well often. So just thank you for that. And there was one other thing, and I've forgotten what it was. I think it was just in relation to the Mask Festival. And I really hope that given the way that you've approached the program, this is a big program, and almost it's harder, I would imagine, to do lots of smaller things than it is to do one big thing. It's actually quite a, you think about it, we know that, it's sort of, we know that ourselves. And so I would like to think that that the contract, I do hear that the commentary around, well, should some money be coming back to council? Look, I think I would be surprised if that would be a fair and reasonable outcome, but that's the discussion you're going to need to have through with the officers. I think there is a contractual term somewhere about delivery of the arts festival, and maybe that's something that's sort of earlier in the year, that risk needed to be identified as that term may not be able to be satisfied, and nor should it be satisfied, because actually, in my view, it wouldn't have been what the community, if I was to balance out what you're proposing to deliver with the Mass Festival and say, which package would I have picked? Oh boy, I would have picked the package that you're delivering, because it's absolutely right for the times. So thank you. But obviously that'll be discussions that get sorted out at an officer level. Kia ora.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, either via Zoom or the chamber? Thank you.
I'm happy to move, Mr. Chair.
Yes, we've got the reports. Bear with me a moment. So we've got the report. Right, so it might be something I think the staff are presenting. So I'll just check with Tony, because there's a report. There's obviously a presentation by the trust, but we've got the report in front of us.
I'll move that we receive the report.
Thank you.
I'm happy to second.
Moved to be received. Seconded by Councillor Sanson. Just check, is there any debate? I'll put it. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you once again for the opportunity to do this. We know how important this relationship is, and I have to say there's nobody sitting around the board table of the Arts Festival Trust that doesn't take that very, very seriously. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
If you just bear in mind, we've got the next one here, which is the swimming pool aquatic facilities item, and we've just got our consultant who's joining us via Zoom. If you wanted to give a 30-second stretch, welcome to do that. We've got this item before the tea break, because we've got up to timing with the consultant being available. Just want to stretch your arms, stretch your legs. You're on good. So I'll just say, Jane, I'll just wait till we had a chance for the consultant. It's all good. Very good. So we've got Kevin Collier. I'll put that into your hands, Jane.
All right. Kia ora koutou. First, I'd like to just acknowledge that there's a minor correction in Resolution 2, where we talked about the 2024 to 24 long-term plan, and that should have been, and you've made it. Thank you, Mark. Lovely. Should have been 2024 to 34. So if I have time to do a very brief introduction, I'll just do a quick outline and then pass it to Kevin Collier, who's from RSL, who prepared the document that's attached to your options report. And then after Kevin's done a quick blurb, I thought I'd just make it really clear what the next steps are and what the outcomes from after today will be. So the future of the pools in Nelson is something we've been looking at for a while. In the 2018 long-term plan, we put money in for a pools strategy. That strategy was completed in 2020, and the Sports and Recreation Committee, as it was at the time, received that in August 2020. That strategy identified some of the background issues and limitations of our current network, as well as identifying a range of actions and considerations for the future. And one of the main actions that came out of the strategy was that we needed to look into the options for developing Riverside and Neyland pools. And so the main action was that we needed to do what was called a feasibility study that we're now calling an option study. That was budgeted for through the 2021 long-term plan, and that is what we've now got attached to this report to receive today. We had a workshop with elected members on this options report in July, and we've had extensive stakeholder feedback on it as it's being developed, and I think Kevin will speak some more about that shortly. The options included in it at a very high level are on pages 45 and 46 of your agenda today.
but the detail of what those options are sits in the attached report. The preferred options that the options study recommends are not ones that you'll be deciding on today. The purpose of today is to refer these options included in it for further discussion through the activity management plan and long-term plan, so that we can have more consultation and discussion through that process. I might pass over to Kevin to give a bit of background on the options report now, Kevin, and then I'll come back and remind you of the next steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Kia ora tātou, ko te aho, Pātiki, te mona, ko Waimakariri, te awa, na Ototahi, aho, ko Kolia toko whānau, ko Kevin toko inoa. So thank you, Mr. Chair and Jane. I'm Kevin from RSL Consultancy. Just want to say first, unfortunately, Richard, my co-conspirator on this, is unable to make the meeting, but sends his apologies. As you've heard, Jane's set the scene and mentioned RSL developed the your aquatic strategy back in 2020. But for this options analysis, staff set up a very clear and thorough brief for the work, and fortunately we were engaged to undertake the work. We brought together a team to do this work too, so it wasn't just RSL. We had architects. We had Braden Harford from Maguire and Harford Architects, who did the architectural drawings, obviously. Laurie Sagers, the managing director at Rawlinsons, who did the QS work, and Nick Meaton, who you're familiar with, based in Blenheim, who did from Applied Energy, who did our energy assessment, and he obviously did your wastewater energy assessment for Nelson as well. In terms of the process, look, Jane's mentioned it very, very quick in terms of the overview. We reviewed the key documents, including your 2020 facility strategy. We undertook stakeholder engagement and a fair bit of the details in the report and Jane's covering report. But it included the key stakeholders and sports groups, swim club, triathlon, etc., other users. So we engaged with older adults and families. CLM helped us pull together groups of them to talk to. Talked to CLM, Nayland College, and others as well. Sport Tasman, the Tuna Beach Holiday Park people, other pool providers, and Tasman District Council and Marlborough District Council as well. Obviously looked at the demographics, and we did that because basically of COVID. So between preparing your strategy and this work, things had changed a fair bit in terms of demographics. So we reviewed those with some interesting results too there. We looked at the sites, as Jane mentioned, prepared indicative designs for the three options. Got our co-workers to prepare the capital and operational, and we prepared the operational costs, presented at the workshop, as Jane said, and then prepared a draft and final report, and here we are. So a reasonably comprehensive and thorough process. Just really quickly in terms of the report, we assume everyone's had a chance to have a read of it, and for those that were the presentation a couple of months ago too, so there's a fair bit of detail in it, but just some key points. The 2020 strategy overall identified an aging, sort of outdated and limited network with gaps in the types of water spaces that communities now need. Obviously, it's filled the role of providing those spaces for a number of years till now, but they do require upgrading. So, having said that, the pools also have been really well run by good operators. I'll put that in there. They are squeezing every single drop of blood out of the stone in terms of the spaces they've got available. So, with input from the stakeholders, as we mentioned, we prepared the various options in the report. We endeavoured to provide a network approach, so not just your network, but the wider network around the region, including Richmond Pool, obviously, and any other private and school pool provision. And our aim in terms of what we put forward in terms of the options was to provide some variety in the network, avoid duplication, and reflect the demographic profiles of the local populations. So demographics. We looked at where the majority of young families are, or school children are, etc., and where the majority of sort of older adults would be, etc. So we've considered that. And overall, it's really to meet the needs of a wide range of potential users as possible. Yes, we did consider other sites, but as Jane said, that these were the existing sites were on balance the best options that I identified. The existing sites do have some limitations. I'll make that point in terms of their overall size, but we can fit the pools, recommended pools on the existing sites. As Jane mentioned, our recommendations are option 2, so Riverside upgrade, and option 3A, which is Nayland upgrade with a 25 metre pool, not the 50 metre pool, to retain both pools on the existing sites. We're asked to and investigated the option of looking at a 50 metre temporary cover over the existing 50 metre outdoor pool at Nayland, but we recommended not doing that, and the reasons behind that in the report. And then the last thing is, to redevelop in terms of a staged approach, if that was what was chosen, then redevelop Nayland pool first. That would provide the most bang for buck and quickest improvement and increase in the overall capacity of the network for you. So, sort of summarising, overall, the report and recommended options, if delivered as is, will fill existing gaps in the network. It'll provide a future-proofed, modern, and efficient and effective aquatic network, and it'll meet the needs of your community for many years to come. Final couple of words, if I can. We've really thoroughly enjoyed the process and appreciate the opportunity. It's been really, really great. And sorry to embarrass you guys, but a quick special thanks to Rosie and Jane for their direction, a total engagement, knowledge and skills in helping us deliver the report as it is. So that's that's it from my side. I believe you open it up for questions. So here if you need me.
Thanks, Kevin. And if it's all right, I'll just outline what the next steps are, just to make it really
I've
clear.
got a question. I've got a question from Judine. Is that right? We've got a hand up from prior.
Yeah, but it's for staff.
Okay, thank you. Cheers.
All right. So you will have just heard Kevin outline the preferred options that the options study recommends. I just want to make it really clear that today is not about confirming those preferred options that are attached in the options study. It's about confirming that the options included in it, all of them, are the options that are worthwhile considering in more detail through the long-term plan process, so that adequate consultation and discussion can happen on those before a preferred option is selected. So next steps will be, if what's here today is approved, will be having further workshops with you on these options through the activity management plan development process and through the long-term plan. And we expect there'll need to be further reporting to council to confirm these options as well. So Kevin and I are both happy to take questions.
Thank you for that. I've got Councillor Edgar, Councillor Laurie.
Thank you. So I guess I'm a little confused about the approach being taken here. So you might have to step me through it. So normally if we want to consider something in an AMP, it doesn't require a resolution of council first to enable us to consider it in a workshop looking at the AMPs. So can you sort of talk me through your reasoning behind the timing of this? Because also half of us around the table will not be considering this in the AMP because we are not going to be here. So if a resolution is required to decide to even decide whether something will be considered at a workshop, which confuses me, I'm not sure why we are the people who should be making that decision, because we are also talking about the LTP, not next year's annual plan. So we're a year ahead of or 9 months ahead of those workshops. So I don't understand the timing, and I don't understand the resolution, and why this isn't just best to have as a discussion with the new council as part of AMP workshops like is normally done.
Thank
So sorry,
you.
it's totally genuine questions. I don't understand the timing or the process being suggested.
Yes, thank you. It does sound like that the 2024 long-term plan is a long way away, but it will come round very quickly. And we wanted this council direction that what we've got in the content of this report is okay, so that we know whether we need to be doing any more work before these workshops, because pulling together other options can take us time, and we just wanted that direction from today that what we've got here is good, is what you want us to consider through the next long-term plan.
Thank you for that.
So, sorry. So, but yeah, I know the pre-work that goes into an LTP. So, but why are we the best council to decide that and not the new one? Because all due deference, it's what, November that you could put this up to the new council. So yeah, I look, I'm personally reticent to, to say I've got everything I need when I'm not going to be the one deciding whether I've got everything I need. And you could get a false sense of, yep, this is everything we need to have AMP discussions. And then in 2-3 months' time, when it comes up again, or worse still, in 9 months' time, when you're having a workshop, that the new council go, oh no, we want totally different information or additional information. So I'm just not sure. So how does this decision today give you that confidence going forward, and knowing that 50% of us aren't going to be here?
Thank you. I think part of the reason we're coming today is that we've had workshops with you, and this council has been the one that's given us the direction to date on where we've got to so far on this strategy. So it's your input through the earlier workshop and through the direction of that we're doing this work now, and it's that reason that we wanted to bring it to you now. But I suppose it could wait.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Chair, depending on how the discussion goes, look, I would probably prefer that it was left to lie on the table. You don't need to rewrite a report, don't need to anything, but it goes to the new term. That would probably be my preference, but it's up to the majority. Cheers.
Thank you for that, Councillor Laurie.
Sorry, thanks. Hi, Kevin. Thank you for the report. Just a sort of general question, really. How do communities respond when you spend a lot of money on their pool facilities, but you make their pools smaller? How do they feel about that?
Interesting question. Thank you, Councillor. Look, it's if I can sort of maybe unpick or try and interpret the question, you're suggesting that the proposed network is smaller than the existing network?
Well, I think you're suggesting that we make Riverside Pool 25 metres, which I think makes it 5 metres shorter than it currently is, and the pool out at Nayland shorter as well. And I just imagine there might be a feeling from some in the community that represents something of a loss.
So in terms of lane space, no, you've also got to look at it in terms of available lane space too. So we're suggesting that Nayland Pool is taken from a summer-only facility to a year-round facility. There's additional lanes. The lanes themselves are the length that are now standard in terms of training and competition for users, but also the other spaces are enhanced. There's more spaces for those that aren't lane swimmers as well. So actually the network has been greatly, or would potentially be greatly enhanced rather than made smaller.
Okay, thanks. Through the chair, I remember a somewhat unkind comment that was made a number of times way back in the day when the Richmond Aquatic Centre was completed and opened. And some people said it took the TDC, who I respect, I love the TDC. They're our partners in local government, and I won't have a unkind word said about them, but I'm just recounting what was said at the time. Some people said it took the TDC 30 years to build a pool, and when they did, it was 25 metres too short. And I just wonder if we might be setting ourselves up for a similar reaction if we follow these suggested ways forward. Given that we are a growing population and we really want to get people swimming. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts, Kevin, on that?
Oh, sorry, question for me. Look, the overall, you're talking about 25-metre pools. 25-metre pools or lane space is just one small component of an aquatics facility network, and in fact, you would be increasing the overall lane space for pools in the network. The question perhaps you're looking at is whether a 50-metre pool is a preferred option or not, and that is discussed in the report. And our recommendation is that it's not, it shouldn't be pursued. That 2 25-metre pools is the best way to do it for a number of reasons. So that is in the report. I can't really I can't say too much else other than that what's being proposed is increasing the capacity and capability, quality, efficiency of the network, and improving the level of service for users. Other than providing a 50-metre pool for what would be what's identified in the report for a relatively small number of users that like to train or compete at 50-metre length, and a relatively small number of potential club or local 50-metre competitions. That's been discussed in the report, and our recommendation is to pursue a 25-metre rather than 50-metre pool.
That's a really great answer. Thank you, Kevin. Cheers.
And thank you. If I might also add there, the 50-metre option is still an option that's included in this options report that would need further discussion through your next stage of the process as well. So that is an option that's still available to consider further.
Thanks, Jane.
Thank you. I've got a few people with questions here, so I'll just keep those if you can concise. I've got Courtney, McGurk, Noonan, Rees, Brand, Sanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jane, thank you for this presentation, and also to Kevin. Just let's get this clear. We are simply receiving this report, aren't we?
Yes.
Right. And this allows you then to proceed and do your work. And I would imagine a lot of work still to go, and contribute to the Parks and Facilities Activity Management Plan for 2024-34 and the long-term plan for the same period. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. And it also lets us know whether there's any more work you want us to do before then.
Yes. I just need to get that clear because I don't want us to get ahead of the game. I know the need is there, but there are greater needs also that have come upon us in more recent times that we need to battle through. So long as we know that it's not going to happen tomorrow, there's a lot more work to go into it. I'm very happy to support this being received, and I would be happy to move that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that. So I've got to move with that. I've just got a few more questions. So Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, we're not just receiving this report. We're actually referring $66 million plus work to the new council to get the staff to keep working on that amount of work. I really think that the new council should actually be doing that. I will not be supporting. I will not be supporting that decision. That's eye-watering money. I think that the report that's there and the work that's been done is perfectly adequate, and more so for the new council to consider those reports that have been provided already and make a decision. And if they staff bring that to one of the first meetings of the new council, then they can then give that direction. But I really think it's very unwise to get the staff to keep working on it. They've done a lot of work already, and I think what's there is sufficient for a new council to make a decision whether they want to spend that money or not. I think they're going to find. I think they're going to find there's a lot of money needing to be spent on in Nelson coming out of the weather event that we've just had, and we haven't got all the decisions to make. So I won't be supporting this going for consideration into it's to go into consultation in the long-term plan. Well, we shouldn't be making that decision, in my view. Thanks. I'm sorry, Tim, it wasn't really a question, but I think we were seeking some direction on whether we should be doing it or not. So I just wanted to give you that now.
Thank you. I've got Andrew White to respond.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So there's a couple of things here. One is the comfort of the current council to effectively support further discussion to go on around existing assets and how they are replaced or renewed or exited, I suppose, in a way. This is something that will be considered through the next LTP anyway. These are existing assets and services that are provided to this community, and I appreciate that as a result of the recent weather event and the potential for more weather events, council is going to have to think very carefully, as will the rest of the community, around where it sets its priorities. But actually, Jane and Kevin have made a very good point about and also around the golf club earlier today, the comments that were made about the importance of these places for community well-being. They are absolutely critical for community well-being and health. And so you can take the approach of there is going to be a new council, but actually from a community point of view, you are the council, as is the new council. And ideally, that decision-making should be seamless. We have a job to do, which has been set through the current LTP that we are continuing with, and it is going. These matters around these ageing facilities are going to have to be considered one way or the other through the next LTP. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And this report does not make you commit to any particular option. It makes you enable us or support us to continue with the work that we're doing, that we're going to need to complete continue for the next LTP.
I'm happy to second.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Brand. Just in speaking order, I've got Rees, Brand, Sampson.
Gee, I think you've missed me out.
Have I?
Yes.
I have. Very good. True. I crossed you off here. I was.
No, I hadn't asked you a question. No, I've got a couple of questions here. I appreciate that the recommendation is that all the options are put forward. It does concern me that the option of 3B, rejecting the 50-metre option, has been sort of elevated to this, in the report that it is. And I'm very adamant that that should be retained as an option to be considered by the community in the normal LTP process. But one of the reasons I rejected it, I put a question to Kevin, is, and it was picked up by Councillor Laurie, by not having a 50-metre pool in the Nelson Tasman region. Is there a calculation made about the lost opportunity cost? Has that been a factor in your report?
So Kevin, you just got your microphone off. They were off, done it many a time.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry. So yeah, by opportunity cost, you're referring to the potential economic benefits from hosting events and that kind of thing. Is that what you mean? Because that.
Well, good example, and Councillor Laurie mentioned it before about the Richmond Aquatic Centre. The land was available at the time, and I think it's still, probably is still available, the reserve land, to extend the current 25-metre pool out to 50 metres. and the land is kept clear, and the northern aspect of that is available. But it's not ever going to happen. Is that the filtration plant that was put in doesn't have that capacity, and they've already built a learn to swim facility next to it. So, and there have been no 50-metre events in the region since then, and the opportunity to use that has gone. I'm just wondering, is there some way that can be factored into the decision making, or I'm not probably making myself clear, but if it's not built at the time, it doesn't happen. And Nelson is littered with many examples of if it's not done at the time, it never happens.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I suppose, something that council needs to consider, and we've endeavoured to try and put the pros and cons and arguments for and against in the report. But ultimately, we were asked to sort of make a recommendation. Our recommendation is as put forward. It's not so the opportunity costs can be considered in different ways too. There's an opportunity cost of putting the 50-metre pool in as well, which has there's an economic cost. It costs more to build and run, but also you've lost the cost of provision of other types of aquatic spaces. And one of the points I'll make is that the lanes, what we call lane swimmers or whatever, are about 25%, or should be about 25% of aquatic facility users. The other 3/4 are your hydrotherapy swimmers, your families, your kids, your aqua joggers, or whatever it may be. It's that for me. We're part of that opportunity cost consideration as well. We've endeavoured to put that in that report. Ultimately, though, it's up to the community and up to council to make that decision. We've been asked to consider that option. We put it in as an option, and here's the pros and cons, and here's the spatial requirements required, etc. Here's our recommendation. Ultimately, it's up to council to make that call.
Yeah. Okay. Just the other one is about the report doesn't really talk about the flexibility that a 50-metre pool terms, like in terms of bulkhead, and you get two 25-metre pools. Which goes to your lane space argument. That wasn't included in your report.
So there was you're right. I mean, at level of detail, no. But there was a comment in the report around, if you wanted to put in a 50-metre pool at Nayland, then there's an assumption that you would retain the provision or the recommendation for a 25-metre pool and other space at Riverside, and therefore you would have effectively 3 25-metre pools in the network. Because if you've got a bulkhead, or you'd have a 50-metre and a 25-metre plus Richmond's 25-metre pool, and then part of that is that then you would be well and truly oversupplied for lane space in the region. And that's based on the National Facility Strategy and Sport New Zealand's recommendations, etc. So there's that side of things. If you retain the 25-metre pool at Riverside and a 50-metre pool at Nayland, the other option is if you just have a 50-metre pool at Nayland and go down the track of redesigning the proposal for Riverside without a lane pool, then you've got one 50-metre pool, which reduces your redundancy in terms of if anything goes wrong or when you need to take it out of action or repairs or what have you. So there's always those considerations to think about. And it may only be a few lines in the report, but that is considered in the report around that, oversupply of the network and redundancy. So, it's a reasonably complex decision to make. We've hoped we've included most of it in the report and hopefully answered a couple of your further questions here now.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate the response. Yeah, I suppose the point that I'd make is I would ask that it carries on and all options remain on the table. And it looks like we've been steered to upgrade Riverside to 25, Nayland to 25, and that's it. But I think the other options need to remain live and viable.
Sure.
Thank you for that. And I think that's very clear. And as mentioned by Andrew and staff, that these aren't a decision on these options. It's not giving a direction of what to include or not to include, but this will carry on from this council to the next council, and it just gives that clear direction to continue that top of mind. It's obviously going to be tough for a lot of the new council can go back over this, but at least gives them a base of where we're up to on that. And Councillor McGirt, we're going to miss your swing input when you're not here next term, because I've appreciated that.
Oh, no, well, I appreciate it. Well, I'll declare the interest that I am a competitive long distance.
Yeah,
swimmer, so-
you'll be submitting from the other side at the table. So, but I'll any other questions on that?
No, the others.
Some of that can go into debate. Thank you. I've got sorry, I'd skipped you earlier. So I've got Madam Mayor, and then
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I'm just listening to the questions and the answers from the officers, and what we've got today is this is a piece of work that we commissioned through the that current LTP and the activity management plan. And so the officers have done what we've asked them to do. They're completing their piece of work and bringing it back so that we can see that that task has happened. As I understand it, the question is, are there any other options that we feel have been missed? Essentially, is there some further work? Can someone identify another option here that isn't being considered in the report? I don't hear that. What I hear is the members of the committee don't necessarily agree with the recommendations, but the options are still there. So I think that's essentially what we've got. Everything that needs to be there is there. The question is really then what happens to it next. And I'm just going to suggest that, given the quantum of what we're talking about here, these are really significant investments in community infrastructure, and decisions do need to be made. So we've been waiting a long time to see some improvements around our aquatic facilities. And it does take time to work through, because ultimately there are some trade-offs and there's some very big price tags, as Councillor Noonan has discussed. What I think would be important is that this gets the attention of the new council quite quickly. And I think if we were to amend the second recommendation in the report, and it's going to be long, convoluted, so sorry about this, but if we were to refer the content of the options report and its attachment, I won't read that out, for consideration by the relevant council committee, which there's some words we're using which governance advisors might have, where we're using some for the next tronium, for consideration, but basically it's for consideration and preparation of the draft parks facilities activity management plan for the consultation. Because what I think we just need to be really sure of in this case is that we don't end up in a scenario where it's a year into it, or it's even 6 months into it, and then this becomes the topic of conversation, and we find that actually there is another option that the next council would like to have considered, because then you're going to be too late in the piece. So I think Jane's absolutely right. It might sound like it's coming really early, but in fact it really does have to come right at the start of the before the end of the year. So I just like this to actually get in front of the next council before the end of the year if possible, so that the same question can be asked, because if 6 months go by and you get a different answer, you're not going to be able to progress things for the long-term plan. That's really my thinking. So I think happy to receive this, happy to refer it through. And in fact, I quite like the referring through, because it says this is really important, but what we want to do is we want to refer it to get in front of the decision makers so that they can be asked the same question. Otherwise we run the risk it's going to be too late in the piece. Does that make sense, Mr. Chair? Mr. White?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'll check with the mover and the seconder. Andrew.
Well, I'm happy to second the amendment if the mover and seconder don't want it encompassed.
Well, I most certainly do. I think it's an excellent remedy.
Yeah, I'm fine with the amendment.
And through the staff there, officers, Andrew, any issue? I can't see.
Thanks, through you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Madam Mayor. I think that's an excellent amendment to clause 2. And I would just reiterate that there is a lot of water to go under the bridge before any option is chosen on this project. I've dealt with aquatic facilities and developments, and they are really hard work. They're some of the hardest work that councils will do in terms of projects. And a lot of stuff comes out of the woodwork as you progress through them. where you don't want to be is having failing facilities and not done this initial due diligence work in time, because then you do end up with a substandard product or no product at all.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm just trying to craft up some words there on the screen that we might be able to share with
Give it a moment.
the Zoom whānau.
I think I'll just give it a moment for the admin to put that in, then I'll just double check with our mover and seconder. That's it. Sorry, that's all today. Cool. So mover and seconder very happy with that.
Yes,
check those on.
I'll check that, Chair.
I'll just see that those are on Zoom can see that and understand that. I see a nodding of a head. I've got heads going all over.
Oh, good.
Could you put it back up one more time, please?
Can put some time-bound stuff around that. It almost needs to go to the first meeting of the relevant delegated committee to get it in time. It will have to go. It will have to go straight in.
So,
we may need a brief adjournment while this is worked on, because I think there's just a little bit more work to be done on it.
Just bear with me before I do an adjournment. Maybe what I see, it looks straightforward, but what you're saying, if I get that right, you're wanting voters moving over to be considered through the long-term plan. You want a step prior to that to be considered by a delegated committee before it goes to that next step to be further progressed.
I basically I think it should be the report. This report should be endorsed by the relevant delegated committee
prior to
that step needs to happen. I think given the scale of what we're talking about here, if you're starting to look at what are the priorities in this area, this will get up into your top three probably. So it's kind of getting it through to before the end of the year, so that if the committee, the next committee, has a different view around options and they feel something's missing, then Jane and Kevin and Rosie and crew can go and explore explore whatever it might be that's missing. I think it's really comprehensive, but I think just given how important it is, it does need to be endorsed. You just don't want to be 6 months down the track and somebody has a bright idea and says, oh well, actually you didn't consider this.
So the intent here is to streamline in the sense that before it gets to the LTP, that opportunity for any, with a new council, for any opportunity for additions or further scope to be included, or you're talking about like refining it by the new committee before it goes to LTP.
There's some very good words that have been put up on the screen. I don't know if they've been probably could share those.
Just let me have a look at those. Endorsement by the relevant delegated committee early in the first year of the new triennium in preparation. I'll give the opportunity to move in a second to see if any issues, and then I'm sure that
to make it even more simple, you could just cut off the rest of it and go endorsement by the relevant early in the first year of new triennium. So basically that's what it does, and then the rest of it can depart because we know what it's there for. It would just be we're sending it there. But I think if I see Councillor Egan's still got her hand up, so I'm trying to be as speedy as I can, but also make sure that it captures what it needs to. Maybe you might want to refer to the Deputy Mayor if she was seeking adjournment. See if we still need it.
So I'm just going to make sure it's not changing our intent, or we're welcome to change the intent of the recommendation, but just see if it doesn't undo what the intent of recommendation, but the original recommendation. Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree. It's pretty ugly, but actually I think it covers what we need. We know that we need to get endorsement by the delegated committee early in the new triennium. We know that the purpose of that is so that we can feed through into the activity management plan and the LTP process. So for me, it actually works. I imagine that for the team, it probably works as well as it is. So I'm happy with that. I understand what it's saying. What we'll need to work out is just what that process is with the committee to get that endorsement. I imagine that we will cover this off in the induction for the new council, that there may be a workshop session potentially, and then a decision from the new committee once it's settled in a little bit.
Before I move to Judine has a question, and make sure those on Zoom can see that, I'll just make sure at this stage the mover and seconder are happy with that before I get a little bit of feedback. Okay, I've got Judine with a question.
Oh, okay. So I guess what we've been shown on the screen is different again. All the last part was being taken off, which was
Correct. So I'll get
going to be my request for that to happen, because this as it stands, what I'm being shown, I don't know if you're seeing different, doesn't address it, because it's still got that other stuff at the bottom. I thought that was coming off.
I'll just confirm that. I thought so too. I'll just check this with just a bit of shaping here. Just give us a moment, Judine and Gail. So I'll check with Andrew. That's with that last bit that was originally highlighted at the bottom of the last in black, retaining or removed.
Look, through the chair, the way it's written makes it very clear for staff around what the process is. It is quite ugly, as I said, but it makes it very clear for us what we want to achieve. But if the mover would like that last bit removed, then so be it. But let's cover that off in the minutes of the meeting.
I'm comfortable with it as a whole there, but I'll ask a mover in a second.
Look, I don't mind if it stays. I'm just keen to move on, actually.
Yeah, very good. Yep, I agree.
I'm fine with the way that it's worded as shown now.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'd like to see it because I hadn't finished reading it.
Yep.
It's very hard to listen to a conversation and read at the same time. So could we just have a moment to read it?
Yep, so give us some opportunity for that. I just want to make sure at the table here, movers and seconders can see it first clearly and get their indication before I even consider what the rest of the team. Here's a moment to read it now. And while you're reading that, Rosie and Jane, I know we report here in your intent of that. Does that undermine what you were originally?
Thank you. No, that would be great to also get it in front of the new council.
Thank you. Very good. So has those on Zoom had a chance to see that? I can imagine you've got it in front of you. Yep. Trudy.
Are we on to questions now, or?
No, so we're about to go. We've had it moved and seconded, so I'm about to go to debate, but I've...
I had questions before.
Sorry, can I just have someone email the resolution to me? Because people kept talking while I was trying to read the resolution, which is what I asked for. So could someone then email me the resolution? Then I know what I'm voting on. Thank you.
Give you a moment to read that.
Excuse me.
So what I'll do...
We've been asked, point of order, excuse me, disrespect for other members that have actually asked for an adjournment and a bit of a moment. We seem to be just pushing on through this, and it's going to take 5 minutes. And as I said, you've got people who've been on Zoom since 9 o'clock and it's nearly 11 o'clock and we haven't had a break. Now, I think we could possibly just take a moment, and this would be a good moment to take. Thank you.
So what I'll say, I won't uphold your point of order, but you're making a comment, you feel that you need a break. We've got down here at 10:50. There's a break. We've got a contractor here, and no, we're not holding on. We've given an opportunity for people to see this. What I will do, if people are still needing a little bit more time and quiet to read that, I will happy to adjourn and have a tea break and come back. We've got a consultant here at the moment, but would that be helpful if we have our tea break now and then come back to this decision, or are we going to take them right to the consultant? We need any more from a consultant on this? I don't believe we do.
Thank you. That would be fine. I imagine we probably don't have any more questions for the consultant.
Right. So
I do.
So Trudy's got a question.
Thank you. Just before you disappear, Kevin, I just had a question about your report because I did struggle to read it, and I did try with a magnifying glass, but it was a bit blurry. So on the page of your report, which is page 60, which is 110 for ours, you talk about the substation for the Riverside Pool. Is that only used by, because it's only at 60% capacity and its capacity of 850 amps, is that only being accessed for the swimming pool, or is that being accessed by the other areas surrounding it?
As I understand, that's been accessed by other areas as well. I'll make it clear I'm not the energy consultant of this, but try and recall the conversation I had with Nick, and he's saying that it's been used by other facilities around, and it may have additional draw on it as I understand, as other improvements or changes or upgrades to other facilities around there draw on it. So I think what he's saying is that it may need upgrading to meet the needs of the aquatic facility.
Okay, so the cost of that, which is exactly where I was sort of heading, so the upgrade cost, is that something that the power company do and then dispense to the users, or is that something we have to factor in on this?
Right there, you've probably extended the the limit of my knowledge and expertise in that area. I'm happy to find out from Nick and go back through Jane and give you an answer to that if you wish. But look, I really don't want to make an answer there because I don't know what the scenario would be in that case.
No, that's okay. And then the question about the early learning centre that's attached to it. Sorry, I couldn't find in the report. So would that disappear, or would that then be included in the upgrade of the Riverside?
No, it's not included in the upgrade.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, those on Zoom and those online here at the moment. I'm happy to adjourn, but if there's any other questions you need while Kevin is here, this is the opportunity, because I'm happy if someone's still wanting to get their head around that or that amendment, I'll go into an adjournment. But if we'd like to have a bit of debate, we are. Okay. Any other questions while the contractor is here? No, thank you. Judine?
I've got a question about the resolution, but doesn't require the contractor to sign here.
Councillor Noonan? The question of the contract, or would you want to do it after the
I need
adjournment?
the contractor, thank you. Thanks very much, Kevin.
Sorry, you did say you need the contract? No, okay, thank you. What we'll do is we'll, so I see there's a bit of debate, we'll adjourn for a break. I've got us down for half an hour break. So we'll come back at 25 past, but we'll come into there's a supper there in the main room. Thank you.
Are we going to fix the resolution before we go to debate, Mr. Chair?
I'm happy to, but there was indication that people wanted more time. I'm going to give you more time. So we'll come back after the break and we'll fix that resolution. Or if you want to have a chance to read that, we'll make any adjustments to that. But I do want to keep this simple and moving forward, but it is a very big item, especially for the next committee. Thank you. Adjourn for a break. do you have a question? Okay. Thank you for that. So we're obviously back online here, and we've had during a break with a chance to people see the amendment there, and I have questions there still from Judine and Gail. So Judine, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So GA sent me a copy of the resolution, and it doesn't read at all well to me. So I can read you what I've got. It's resolution 2. And what it says in what was sent to me was, refers to the content of the options report and its attachment, blah, 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 for consideration endorsement by the relevant delegated committee early in the first year of the new triennium in preparation of in the draft Parks and Facilities AMP 2024-234 for consultation to be considered through the long-term plan 2024-34. So what I've been sent by the GAs is a bit of a jumbled mess. So
Judy, I'll just check. So there was a couple of that's there which crossed out. So the word for consideration endorsement, the word consideration has a line through it.
no, not on what I was sent, sorry.
Okay.
So
if you're able to put a line through that, so if you go where it goes for consideration endorsement, if you just put line through consideration.
oh yeah, no, I'm seeing it on the screen now. Okay, no, that all makes sense now. Thank you very
And
much.
also the words in the.
Yeah. There's a different version on the screen as to what I was sent, so that all makes sense. Thank you.
Very good. And Councillor Noonan.
I'm coming. Thank you. Look, I'd like to speak, and I'm not going to support this because it's still got at the end consultation to be considered through the long-term plan 24-34. If that had been removed, I would have supported this. But I still don't think it's, sorry, my glasses are dark. It's probably not very fair for you. I still don't think it is fair to put it straight into, how does something leapfrog straight into the consultation document for long-term plan without going through the relevant steps? Had that been removed, I would have supported it, but I can't support it as it is.
Okay. So we had it moved in second. I'll just double check that was happy to move to second on that. So what I'll do is I've had all questions and I'm about to move into debate. I'll move into debate. Thank you. So you had it in front of us. I said before, it's been moved and seconded. Open for debate. No debate. Got Judy.
Thank you. Sorry, I was just working with my mute. So look, my concern is that in the last, or my concern was, so I'm still going to debate. My concern was that in the last LTP, there were actually a number of AMPs where elected members got minimal input at that drafting stage for what we saw and for what our vision was. You know, we got a lot of, here is a list of projects, choose from them, yes or no, bang, it's in or it's not. So my concern coming in on the base of the report was that, you know, is that if it didn't get the attention of the new council and was simply put in on the back of our recommendation, then it could risk them not having that sufficient input and consideration. So I'm very happy that the amended resolutions achieves what I was seeking, which was to ensure that they've got ownership of future projects. So, however, I will just mention, you know, there were comments about, you know, the criticality of this for, you know, community health and well-being. And I feel that they, you know, misrepresented what my concerns were, but also the reality of the decisions, because, you know, asking for the next council to have good input on an LTP, which is theirs to deliver out to the community for consultation, is not a negative statement about the value of swimming pools, and nor does it delay ultimately the decision or the work or the delivery by the council on our aquatic facilities. And actually, as someone who is a regular pool swimmer myself, I am very supportive of aquatic facilities, but equally I'm a bit of a fan of good process and community engagement, and I don't think the two are actually mutually exclusive. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any more debate? Councillor McGurk.
Yeah, thanks. And through you, Mr. Chair, I'll speak in support of the recommendations up there because it does actually set a clear direction and some reasons to the officers to proceed. This is, as I say, it is a substantial project. This is early days. Yeah, that's started this triennial and we go on to the next one, probably the one after that. But it's important that the work continues. But it's also equally important that that work is actually endorsed by the incoming council to confirm and to engage, as Councillor Edgar said, with community engagement and buy-in as well. So it is a substantial project. It does require significant governance oversight of it, but it does set a clear direction and the reasons to the officers to just keep pressing. And I'm pleased that all the options are still remaining live rather than trying to sort those ones out at this which I think is far too early.
Thank you for that. No further debate. Trudy.
Thanks through the chair. I second it, so I'm voting in favour of the recommendation. I think it's important that we don't stifle the work, especially on ageing infrastructure that is actually a key part of the infrastructure for our community. And this hasn't locked in any decisions or anything. It's just providing the next council with the ability to continue on and for the community to continue to engage and communicate with the council about what they want. So I'm happy for this to continue so that we're not wasted time, energy and money on work that gets done and then shelved. So that's where I sit.
Thank you for that. No further debate. I'll put it. Those in favour? Aye. Those against?
No.
Carried. Thank you. Move on to the next item, which is pages 122, and proposal to consider a Te Reo name for the new park in Atawhai. I've got the author, Tanya. I've got Carol Stewart, but Tanya will be a senior officer. Thank you. Pages 122, 119, correction, 119 to 126. Very good. Cheers, now good.
Kia ora koutou. Council has acquired a new neighbourhood park in Atawhai as part of the Bayview subdivision and works to develop the park will commence later this year, which includes a new playground. This report asks that committee support a request for a Te Reo Māori name for this new park. And partnering with iwi to name a new reserve helps to acknowledge the iwi associations within the area, and it promotes the use of Te Reo in our community. If support is given, officers would engage with the Council Kaihatu to support the cultural engagement with Kaimātua and or the iwi po tikanga. Once the name is decided, it would be then likely shared at an official ceremony, and officers would subsequently report to the hearings panel other requesting endorsement of the name. So happy to take questions.
Thank you for that. Any questions around the table? No, very good. I think it's very straightforward.
It's pretty straightforward. I'm happy to move the recommendation, Mr. Chair.
I'm happy to second it.
So I've had it moved by Councillor McGurk, seconded by Councillor Rainey, and I do see a couple of questions. I did have a couple of hands online and a couple of missed a hand. No. Okay, very good. I've got Judine and Rachel Sanson.
Cheers. Look, just a question. Sorry, I don't know what staff are in the room, but I know we're looking at reviewing our naming policy. Is this one, because I sort of do query this having to go to a hearing panel for us to have Te Reo naming of our parks. It feels an inappropriate step. It feels an unnecessary step. So is this something that is looking to be reviewed as part of that naming policy review, so these processes can be a bit simpler and a bit more streamlined going forward?
Through the chair, yes, I understand that's the case. And we wanted to take this one forward because the park's about to be developed, so it was a timing issue.
Oh no, absolutely. I'm wholly supportive of this. I'm just trying to ensure the processes are going to be simpler and easier going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sanson.
Thank you through the chair. So my question was actually the same as Councillor Edgar's, but I do have an additional question if possible. And I'm just wondering, at the time, if when reserves are being established in new subdivisions, is there collaboration with the Parks and Reserves team to ensure that it's an appropriate site? Like, I looked at the map and I just can't work out what the gradient is or anything like that. So it's not related to the naming policy, but it's just something I'm interested in really is, how that happens.
Through the chair, yes, we do have extensive discussions with the developers through the resource consent process.
Great. And so council staff are happy with the, location and gradient of the reserve and all of that. I'm assuming that's why it's been approved.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Chair, thank you. So we've had it moved and seconded. Any debate? Madam Mayor.
Just one quick question. Carol, have we talked to the developers about the intention of naming the reserve? Are they aware of that?
Through the chair, no, I hadn't on this one.
Okay, I think it probably would be, just good just in terms of communication, just so that they know what process is going on. I think that would be good for them to know. Thank you.
Very good. Those in favour, sorry, my microphone back up. I'm putting it. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. This takes us to the next item, which is pages 127, future public recreation use of Ngāti Koata Whenua.
Elected members will be aware that there's a large network of trails on Ngāti Koata Whenua, which provide really good recreational opportunities in Nelson. Also, there's been considerable work that's been underway for some time to enable continued access onto this whenua. Ngāti Koata supports recreation occurring on its whenua, provided a long-term agreement is reached in relation to public access. The purpose of this report is to confirm Council's long-term strategic position in relation to the recreational use of Ngāti Koata Whenua, and it follows positive feedback received at elected members workshop held in mid-July. If the committee recommends Council agrees to the statement, it will formally acknowledge the importance of this whenua to the community and demonstrate a strong intent to work together with Ngāti Koata to reach an agreement for long-term access. And again, we're happy to take questions.
A question from Councillor Sanson.
Thank you very much through the chair. So I'm just happy to move this and would like to acknowledge Ngāti Koata and their whenua and the access that they give to the community for recreational use. And I think that this is an important step in the relationship that we have with them. Thanks so much.
Happy to second.
Thank you. It's been moved and it's been seconded. No further questions? Very good. Put opportunity for debate. I'll put it. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. Unanimous. Thank you. So we're just about to go into community recreation report, and as I said earlier, for a chair's report, just a verbal one there, and I think it ties in quite nicely with the quarterly report. And some of us have just gone over a little bit in our lovely tea break. Thank you for that. But community and recreation and sport and recreation, which was community services and sport and recreation, be combined. As I've said before, it's been a very large committee. It's something I think is very visible to the community and very much enjoyed by various services, the arts, culture, sports, etc. And as I've often mentioned in the past, we've got lovely, amazing assets that our council very jealously protect and look after. But I think one of the greatest assets of Nelson is the staff that make these items happen. It's a very broad committee, and these assets, as physical and monetary they may seem, they provide, whether it's running up and down a field or enjoying a picnic at Queen's Gardens or the arts and culture. It's about well-being, and what this committee provides, I think at the end of the day, when all the wheels are turning and the bits and pieces that we put into place, the top of mind for me is always being, is that going to improve the well-being of our community? And it's always hard to put a figure on that in that sense. And obviously we have a lot of things going on at the same time. I've always been incredibly impressed by our staff, and I've mentioned it earlier, forgive me for that, but it's something when people often, sometimes council get a hard time that, you know, you're damned you do, damned you don't, but the public appreciate the staff and the councillors right through this council, and that some of the most passionate people here are the staff. And I mentioned earlier, when I'm out and about doing my things, I know when you're a councillor, you take a great passion in our facilities and the services, and you're involved in it just like any resident. And when those sort of flags pop up, go, oh, are we doing this right? Has an issue come up here? Was there something we do better? I often find in their own time, our staff, and there's too many to mention today, but I often find those staff outside of their own hours are already down there attending to it in their own time or making those connections with the public. And I've always been a big believer in bringing the community with you, and a lot of that heavy lifting is done by our staff. But also I want to obviously thank the councillors around this table. We've got a range of skills around this table, but once again, those greatest skills is being part of that community, and we all use those facilities. As you've seen, I've been very grateful and appreciative. We've started off the arts strategy, the heritage strategies, which have led on from our sports and recreation strategies achieved in the previous term. We've got things that have been in the kicking down the roads, not the right word maybe, but in those turning wheels of progress. We've had the youth park completed. We've got the Maitai hub finished. There'll be more work to do on that. Purchase, for example, of the Grampians, our reserves there. A great report earlier on in the year on how to preserve and invest in looking after those canopies of trees and getting the weeds and the pests down. The mountain bike trails and tracks. But once again, and as we had today, we've had the Arts Trust Festival, the various events there, once again looking after the well-being. And I've always been impressed by the various community groups and sporting clubs, etc., who've had a tough time, but they always keep their chin up and work together moving forward. So I won't go too much more on that, but once again, thank you for everyone for the great work you've done. I've always taken the philosophy of no surprises, and I've appreciated the respect and support by councillors and staff on that. They're always quick to let me know if there's something coming up or something to be heads up for, and if it's something I can move for, make sure the chair or deputy chair or the mayor are aware of, we keep those wheels moving. So I'd just like to thank you for that, and obviously the next term, there's still a lot of things to complete and continue, things that have been started, things to finish, and it's the seamless nature of council always impresses me from that. Thank you. What I'll do, but before I move on to Tanya, just with sadness here, Tanya's leaving us shortly, I think sooner than later, I think, unfortunately. And as much as I've appreciated everyone here, I've also especially appreciated Tanya's time on that. She's hit the ground running. Like Andrew's come in partway through this committee, and another person I've been incredibly impressed with, Andrew, as a right-hand man, hitting the ground running, and I've been aware of those sorts of things, and I've always leant very heavily on the other staff as well. I'm going to say down the chain, it all equals, and being at the coalface. And Tanya, I've really impressed on your grounded, professional viewpoint of the various topics that come to play. And when we've had to understand things like CCOs and CEOs, etc., that is something I've lent on you to get advice on that. And that's something we always have trouble getting our heads around in governance at times, but having someone firmly understanding it from the outside world coming to Nelson. But sad to see you go. But what I'll do is I'll hand over the reins to you for the quarterly reports, an opportunity to sum up some of the stuff that we've been doing incredibly well over the last 3 months. Thank you.
Oh, tēnā koe. It's been a really lovely committee to work with, and I've certainly enjoyed learning from all of you. It's been fantastic, and just the scope and range of this committee's work. So in terms of introducing the quarterly report, as you'll know, there have been changes to some of the things that we care for due to the recent flooding event, but this is the quarterly report for prior to that weather event. And so I think it's an acknowledgement to the staff for some of the really major projects and undertakings they've been involved with that are not even really there anymore, thinking about the Maitau Recreation Hub particularly. But so we've included that because I think it's important that that is the work that was taking place. Happy to take any questions, but also if you just want to receive it and take it as read.
Thank you. Any questions in regards to the quarterly report? I'll take it as read. Councillor Bywater.
Not a question, but just a little wee pet comment that I made a couple of times before. I noticed that we have heritage updates and reports on Broad Green and Founders, and just if we can keep in centre in mind that Melrose House has been left off again. And I know that in the next quarterly report they've got their AGM which will come through, but they did have quite an event and a few other things. So just respectfully asked if they could be remembered in the quarterly reports. Thank you.
Carol, through the chair, thank you. We'll make a note of that, and it may be that things are tracking along really well there, and we try to keep the report to a reasonable size for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take it as read. Have questions? Can I have someone move it? Moved by Councillor McGurk, seconded by Councillor Brand. Or any debate? I'll put it. Those in favour? Aye. Aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Now, I believe that's the end of our public session. Yeah, thank you. Hey, just before we give an opportunity for the governance administration to put us into the public skid-off, thank you very much for the youth councillors here, Isla and Kira. Thank you for the input through that. So you'll be the ones that will be helping us hand that baton over when there's that little bit of I want to say a stop-start between councillors at the table. I know the staff just work relentlessly anyway, but yeah, you might be holding the baton for the next crew that sit in these seats and hand it over as they come through the door. So I'll leave it in your good hands for a week. Hey, thank you. Cheers. So I'll get us, can I have someone's going to move in second? We're moving out of public into excluded. Moved by Councillor Courtney, second by Councillor Bywater. Put it, those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you. Just give a moment for us to make that changeover. While we're doing it, hey, thank you for your efficiency in those last number of items. We've obviously got a few items there, so if we can just keep that efficiency going. Thank you.